we are just hours, if not even minutes, away from the start of the postseason in baseball in the metropolitan region, and that's why we are here today to talk about the Section 1 playoffs, FCAC, Catholic League, Section 9. They all really get going next week, and so we're going to focus on Section 1 this week on the Round the Diamond. I'm your host, Kevin Devaney Jr. Going to break down the Section 1 baseball playoffs. Going to take a quick look at the Independent State Championship that's being played on Wednesday between Poly Prep and Rye Country Day. And we're going to talk a little bit about our Tri-State Top 20 poll, our ever-evolving, ever-changing Tri-State Top 20 poll. So let's get right into the Section 1 playoff seeds. The seeds came out on Tuesday afternoon, and I don't know if there was really any surprises on who the top seeds were. We take a look right now. Class AA, RC Ketchum, number 1 team, top-ranked almost all season long until that final ranking. And they are the number 1 seed. Number 2, New Rochelle. Fox Lane is the number 3 team. And North Rockin is number 4 in an 18-team field in Class AA. Class A saw 23 teams get into the Section 1 tournament. The top 4 seeds being Beacon, Rye, Eastchester, Byram Hills. And in Class B, 18 teams as well. You had North Salem overtaking Rhinebeck on the final day of the regular season when Rhinebeck lost to John Jay Cross River for the number 1 spot. Putt Valley 3, Briarcliff is your number 4 seed. So the seeds, as we said, no real shock, no real surprises, nobody really kind of, it's some really good matchups, some very intriguing matchups. You have some rivalry matchups, and we'll talk about those when we go class by class. But, overall, I think things are kind of laid out on the table for a lot of teams. They know what they have to do. Arlington, the 2-time defending champions, a tough road ahead, and we're going to start right there in Class AA. Class AA is loaded. Every year, there's 7 or 8 teams that can get in to win a championship, which makes what Arlington's done the last 2 years, winning back-to-back titles, so special. A three-peat, not going to be easy, especially when you look at RC Ketchum. Now, RC Ketchum, as we said, they were the top-ranked team in the Tri-State, in the Hudson Valley region for most of the season, and they entered the playoffs as the number 1 seed. One of their 3 losses was to Arlington, an 11-1 defeat. They go into the playoffs, I don't want to say They didn't lose much steam by losing to Beacon in the Ricky Lombardo tournament over the weekend. I think Jordan Bishop, 23 RBIs. He's been hitting the ball so well all season long. So is Jacob Morgenstern. And the defense that Ketchum plays, they're a deserving number 1 seeded team. But Arlington is still lingering. Mark Barbieri, Drew Lugbauer, the way this team has hit the ball all season long. Drew Lugbauer, a draft prospect, a 6'3" catcher, home runs, 7 of them on the season. Here's one of them against White Plains. He's walked 17 times, 19 RBIs in just 20 games this season. He's been so good. For Arlington, it's all about pitching. Evan Kleinglantz, 25 strikeouts in the year. Him, Kyle Ackley, and Joe DeRosa, they have to pitch well. Speaking of pitching, Fox Lane, historically known as an offensive team, it's going to be pitching for them that's going to have to lead them to another championship game appearance. Andrew Workman had scouts at his last start. He's been pitching so well all season long. Alec Brown, and of course, the pitching staff, the depth of the pitching staff on this team is what's going to have to be, because the bats have kind of gone away a little bit. And really, Andrew Workman, another one, Ralph Newsy, this Fox Lane offense was good for most of the season. They've gone a little quiet of late, but Fox Lane, a title contender in Class AA. Another one, the team we didn't talk too much about most of the season, New Rochelle, coming on strong, grabbing the number 2 seed on the heels of his pitching right there, JoJo Gray. This from their win over Mamaroneck in the league championship game. And all season long, New Rochelle has kind of been under the radar. They go into the playoffs with JoJo Gray, Lou Maselli, and an offense being led by Michael Schaub, and they're playing confidence right now. I think beating New Rochelle the way they did, dramatics there on the last second, the walk-off, squeeze bunt at the plate in extra innings to beat Mamaroneck, a real confidence boost. And North Rockland, another team that's not gotten, they've been considered good all year long, but never really a championship caliber team. And, Eric Sandusky, he's an ace, and what he's done this season long. Kevin Hylas, if he was pitching, it would change things. I do think that North Rockland, pitching, defense, the key to them moving forward. The tough part is going to be the road they're going to have. They're most likely going to have to beat Arlington in a quarterfinal and then Ketchum in a semifinal just to get to a championship game. North Rockland, a legit contender in Class AA in Section 1. In a loaded field in Section 1. So we talked about Ketchum, Arlington, Fox Lane, New Rochelle, North Rockland. Who's left? Who's really legit? There's a couple teams. I think Suffern's pitching has been so good all season long. They're, as a 7th seed, I guess a little bit of a sleeper. But the team that I really like, and I know that people are going to point to their record and say, oh, they lost 7 games, is Mamaroneck. And the reason why I like Mamaroneck, and I think Mamaroneck could really be the bracket buster in Class AA, is the way the schedule is. If we don't get rain, and yes, we're going to get rain on Thursday, but even so, if the schedule holds and we play Friday, Saturday, and then Tuesday, Saturday championship, Mamaroneck is a team at a major advantage. They can put their 2 aces, Kumar Nambia, the lefty, with a .050 ERA, and Tom Murator, who pitched exceptionally well in this game against New Rochelle. They can line those guys up to get 2 starts in the playoffs. Even on a Friday, Tuesday turnaround, I think Kumar Nambia is definitely capable of doing that. And then all of a sudden, Mamaroneck is a team that nobody's going to want to face in the playoffs in Section 1. They have a tough first-round game against Mayapack. Not going to be easy to get out of that one. And then, really, my dark horse, my deep sleeper, is John Jay's Fishkill. Now, they have a tough opening round draw as a number 12 seed facing Arlington. Really, there were no easy draws for John Jay's Fishkill. They've been playing so well of late, won their final 4 games, including John Jay Cross River, 3-1. They have one-run losses to Ketchum, Arlington, Lakeland, and Cornwall in Section 9. I think John Jay's Fishkill, if one team is a double-digit seed and is going to advance in the playoffs, and yes, they're going to have to beat Arlington in the first round to do it, it's John Jay's Fishkill. A very, very scary team. I had a friend who lives in Dutchess County who follows baseball and who follows our show, and I'm not gonna say his name. He pretty much guaranteed me that John Jay's Fishkill is going to pick off. He says he's going to pick off Arlington in the opening round of the playoffs. I don't know. I like Arlington. We're going to see my predictions here in a second. I like Arlington to advance. Definitely past John Jay's Fishkill, but some people think John Jay's Fishkill's Arlington's due to get knocked off. Hard to go 3 in a row. I like Arlington. We see my predictions right now for Class AA in Section 1. I think number 5 Arlington gets past Ketchum, knocks off their rival. They split in the regular season. I think that just all around the postseason medal that this team has, and Ketchum has a lot of pressure on them as the number 1 seed. I think Arlington gets through the semifinals, and Fox Lane does as well. Fox Lane always finds a way to the championship game. They actually beat Suffern. I think Suffern upsets New Rochelle in the quarterfinals, and then the championship game. A rematch of last year's championship, and the same result. Arlington, I think, is going to beat Fox Lane in the title game. Pick it out of a hat. I think Mark Barbieri, he's not gotten enough attention this year in a lineup that's so good, a very senior-laden lineup. He's a junior. I think Mark Barbieri, the MVP for Arlington, as they win back-to-back Section 1 Class AA titles. Those are just my 2 cents. That is how I think things will go in Class AA. I don't know if people are picking Arlington or not. I've always thought Arlington was the best team, even when they had their struggles this season. They lost 6 games. Everybody, though, in Class A is going to pick Beacon. And for good reason. They ended the season with a big win, a one-run win over Ketchum to win the Ricky Lombardo tournament at Dutchess Stadium. They made great defensive plays in that game, and they are the number 1 seed in Class A. And they're the team to beat. And for good reason. Tony Romanelli, you see right there, the left-hander, headed to Wake Forest next year as a pitcher. He's going to get 2 starts in this postseason. And it's going to be likely that they win both those games. But again, the way that Beacon has managed to win close games this year, and yes, they lost early in the year. They lost to Lakeland in the first game of the season. I think that was just the refocusing that they needed, because they brought every single player back from a team that really should have won last year's championship. So with every player back, including the best player maybe in the section, Tony Romanelli, Patrick Shetter, a guy 100 career hits, Nick DiNapoli, another guy with 100 career hits, they're a clear favorite. But they face some stiff competition in Class A in Byram Hills. Byram Hills, the number 4 seed in Class A. They've really turned it on of late. They have another team with a lot of close losses, but they ended their season with an extra innings walk-off win over Fox Lane, and then an extra innings walk-off win over Pelham. They're roaring into the playoffs. They're going to be rested. They're not one of those teams that had to play on Monday to make up some games. They got a lot of time off. They're going to be able to set their pitching staff up. Kellen Hathaway, 26 RBI in 26 games this season, and Armin Pushka going to pitch on normal rest. He was 5-1 with a 1.29 ERA in the regular season. But those 2 guys right there make the defending champions of John Deere Cross River a very scary matchup, even as a number 6 seed. Those guys being Jack Weiler and Joe Durpich. The best 1-2 punch in Class A, and you can really make a case that they are the best 1-2 punch in Section 1. If Scott Michaels can go out there and give them some good starts, Matt Stroud as well, just give them the innings, I think Jeff Curtis could be the team maybe winning another back-to-back championship in Section 1 in Class A. It would be a little bit of a surprise, maybe not too much of a shock. Another team standing in the way, though, is Lakeland. They struggled down the stretch. They really stumbled late. I think they played just too tough a schedule to not lose some of these games. They happened to lose them in the last week of the regular season. Christy DiMizio, though, he wasn't a guy who let them down. He's played well all season long. Matt DiMarti leads them in hits and RBI in the season. Lakeland, I think the last week of the regular season was a good thing. I think they're going to settle in. They're going to head into the postseason. They have a tough draw with Nyack in the opening round. They're a number 9 seed. Lakeland was looking at a top 5 seed, losing 3 games in the last week. Even the dramatics that they had, this being the Anthony Fava walk-off home run to beat Somers a couple weeks back, that was a dramatic win, and things kind of tailspin for them there. they have things figured out. I have all the faith in the world that Lakeland will turn around. And listen, the possibility of knocking off Nyack in the opening round and facing Beacon in the quarterfinals, all the pressure now falls on Beacon. If it wasn't already on Beacon, it's even more on Beacon. So much of the postseason, especially in what I've seen in Section 1 over the years, when you have a one-and-done tournament, not like Long Island where you have double elimination or you have best-of-3 series, is all about pitching. And when you look at pitching, Tappan Zee is a team that has a top 3 pitcher in all Section 1 in Chris Monaco. It makes Tappan Zee one of the scary teams, a team you don't want to face in the playoffs. And if things work out and they advance in the playoffs, and we'll see Chris Monaco this season, what he's done and the numbers he's put up, he's been so good, lights out. 80 strikeouts on the year. He's just answered the call, going to Virginia Tech next year after missing all of last year with an elbow injury. He's back. He's pitching extremely well. And if he throws, and they have to beat either Pelham or Harrison in the first round, he'll probably pitch in the semifinals against Beacon if they get that far. And it's going to be very interesting to see. But really with them, it's going to be about the offense. Can Michael Barbado and Tommy Morales carry a Tappan Zee offense that definitely had to struggle this season? A team that wasn't lacking in offense was Rye, and the Garnets of Rye all year long. Tim DeGraw hitting almost 600 for part of the season. Great defensive player. We profiled him on last week's Around the Diamond show. But Brendan Tripodi headed to E-line, 3 homers, 19 RBI in the season. Griffin Tootin, another one. Rye, though, if George Kirby can keep this going, just a sophomore, the tall sophomore, he's 7-0 on the regular season. I think every elite pitcher has at least one loss. George Kirby does not. Undefeated in the regular season. Rye, the number 2 seed. Weird saying that they're a sleeper, but they're not a team that people talked a lot about during the regular season. I think Rye is a team that could easily find its way to a championship. I think they're going to get to the semifinals. Very interesting to see how they do if they had to take on maybe an Eastchester or a John J. Fishkill. My picks, though, for the Class A tournament in Section 1, no real surprises, maybe until you see who I like in the championship game. I think Beacon knocks off Byram Hills in the semifinals. That's after Beacon has a tough matchup with Lakeland, or maybe even Nyack in the quarters. John Jay Cross River, last year's champions, the number 6 seed. I think they beat Eastchester in the quarterfinals. They did it last year. They knocked off Eastchester, upset them on their way to the state semifinals. I think John Jay Cross River does it again, and then they beat Rye in the semis, and then the championship game, a rematch of last year's title game. I'd like the Double A, another rematch. This time I think Beacon avenges that loss last year, that bitter defeat they had at John Jay Cross River. And Nick DiNapoli, we'll give Nick DiNapoli the nod for the MVP of the championship game is Beacon. I like them to move on to the state tournament. So then we've done Class A, Class AA. Now we go into Class B, where things got, I guess the seeds came out, and I was a little surprised when I didn't see Rye-Neck as the number 1 team. I thought they were going to have that number 1 seed, even with the loss like they had on Sunday at John Jay Cross River. Again, Rye-Neck was a team that you get this 0 off your record. They were 18-0-1 going into that game. I think losing was a good thing. Get that 0 off the record. You don't want to be undefeated. It's not the easiest. It just adds more pressure. And for a team like, we talked about a team that brought everybody back, Rye-Neck really did. And Tom Pipolo, Chris Cascione, Chris Pinnell, and Aquino, and Franks. There's just so many veterans on this roster, and a lot of guys that played football and basketball. They went to the state championship in football, went to the county center in basketball. I think you have to look at Rye-Neck as a clear favorite to win Class B in Section 1, even as a number 2 seed. Putt Valley is another team. I think Putt Valley is a scary matchup with the number 4 seed. Eddie Lent batting 400, also getting it done on the mound. 1.56 ERA. I like a Rye-Neck North Salem championship game. I think Rye-Neck beats North Salem for the title in Class B. Now we look at the playoffs. Now we talked about the pitchers and how things are going to go. When you have an ace, what do you do when you have an ace? Do you pitch him in the out-bracket game? Do you pitch him try and hold him for the first round, hold him for later in the tournament? Well, when you look at the aces in Section 1, you got to include David Wright, a 4-year starter at Pelham Baseball. And we caught up with him this week, and we got into the mind of David Wright, and he's a very outgoing, fun kid, as you'll see. Field with baseball star David Wright. And David, let's get this first out of the way. Your name's David Wright. You play third base. Yep. You live in New York. How often do people talk to you about your name being David Wright when you live not too far from Citi Field?
It was actually one of the first things that every single person that's ever met me has asked me since David Wright's been on the Mets.
Okay.
I think every single kid that's ever heard a name at an introduction or walking up to the plate, the catcher will be like, "Is your name really David Wright?" I'm like, "Yep." name's really David Wright.
You've made a name for yourself here at Pelham. I mean, just, coming up from the varsity as a freshman, correct?
Yeah.
And just tell me about your time from that first game on to now and how things have gone. Have you grown more than maybe you imagined?
I've definitely grown more than I imagined, and my first pitch ever thrown in varsity baseball, Eddie Rich from Dobbs Ferry hit a triple off the wall.
Okay.
So I looked at my coaches, and they were just like, hey, next pitch. And from there on, I just was like, all right, it's got to go up from here. So my biggest improvement after my freshman year was definitely limit the walks and just kind of put it, you have 8 fielders, 7 fielders behind you, so just kind of let them do their job and throw strikes. And the strikeouts have really only come this year. I wasn't a big strikeout guy my sophomore year. Last year I was hurt a lot, didn't get to pitch that much, wasn't a big strikeout guy. And then this year I gained a couple more miles per hour on velocity and started throwing more strikeouts, but always just been pitch to the glove and let him hit it. And hopefully good things happen.
Now we're heading to the postseason, and this is the time when a team, if they have an ace, they feel like they have an advantage. Now, does that put a lot of pressure on you, knowing that you're a guy that people say like he can win them that one game in the playoffs?
Well, my freshman year, they gave me the ball in the opening playoff game, and from there, I've actually started every single postseason game that's every single first postseason game here throughout my career. So learning from my freshman year, losing on the mound in the playoff game, I was like, I just wanted to be that kid that no one could beat in a playoff game and kind of be Bruckner from 2 years ago when he just dominated and was the ace, and Harrison rode him all the way.
Now here at Pelham, you play for Coach Layton.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to Fordham, you're going to play for Coach Layton.
Yeah.
How weird is that?
Brothers. Yeah, twin brothers. It's crazy because my mom, when I went down for my visit to Fordham, she was like, "That's your high school coach." I was like, "No, it's not. It's his twin brother." Oh, wow. They look exactly alike. I mean, I feel like I've thrived here for the last 4 years under Coach Layton, Brian Layton. His brother coaches a lot, coaches the same way, and I just felt like I had a great career here. What's the need for a change? And I felt very comfortable with the coaching staff there and how Coach Layton went about his business, a lot like other Coach Layton did here.
Now, over 100 games here at Pelham High School, I assume, right?
Yeah,
about that,
yeah.
And soon you're going to put the uniform on for the last time. Have you kind of thought about that at all?
I have thought about it. I don't like to think about it, but I've had a great career here and I love my time. So I'm as sorry I am to take it off and how sad I am. I'm pretty excited to say I wore these colors and wore this jersey.
So David Wright and Pelham going to take on Harrison in the out-bracket matchup, that being on Wednesday in Class A, trying to get into the opening round and maybe take on Tappan Z in the next round. So David Wright, very interesting guy. He's going to play at Fordham next year, as we talked about. And I said to him, I said, "What are you going to study at Fordham?" He says, I'm going to go into sports journalism. I want to start an MSG Varsity down in North Carolina. So good luck with that, David, and good luck at the next. The guys in my ear like that as well. It's going to be interesting to see how David Wright and Pelham does in the playoffs. They lost some games late in the season, really hurt their seedings, and had a chance to not play an out bracket. They take on Harrison at Levy Field on Wednesday. MSGVarsity.com. All the results of the out bracket and really all of the Section 1 baseball tournament. You know, there's another game on Wednesday, a very interesting matchup, and that being for the New York State Independent School Championship. Rye Country Day, that game is at Manhattanville College. Poly Prep, the 3-time defending Independent State Champion, taking on a Rye Country Day squad that's really going to try and ride a pitcher, and that pitcher being Tyler Fernandez. And Rye Country Day is going to, Poly Prep's going to counter with Morgan Gray. He's headed to Brown. Tyler Fernandez, he's headed to Cornell. So a couple Ivy League guys. Fernandez is going to come up big. 1.50 ERA in the season. 64 strikeouts in 46 innings pitched. He's going to need about 9 or 10 of them today. It's a very potent Poly Prep lineup and Morgan Gray is not going to give up many runs. So be sure to check MSGVarsity.com for highlights and news on that game. Now we go into the FCAC, and the FCAC is entering its final weekend. Most of the teams in the FCAC have about 1 or 2 games left. And now we get the seeding race, and now it's really crowded right now, and it's surprising that some of the teams that were really in the middle or really felt secure in their standings are now falling out of the race. And we take a look at the FCX standings right now. Staples has locked up the number 1 spot. They've won 10 in a row, beat West Hill on Monday, 9-2, big win for Staples. They're going to be flying into the playoffs. St. Joe's 12-4. Remember when St. Joe's struggled defending Class M state champions at 0-3 to start the year? Well, they keep going. They won 3 in a row this week, 12-4. They beat Trumbull, that's why they're ahead of them in the standings at 12-4. Trumbull's won 9 out of 10. Colin Keys, a one-hitter against Greenwich on Monday. Dan Rakowski pitching extremely well as he comes back from injury for New Canaan. New Canaan, hit a little bit of a bump. Now they're back to the number 4 spot, tied there. They actually beat Darien, so they get the number 4 seed as of right now with 2 games left to play. Darien number 5, Ward 6, Ludlow, West Hill, they're all tied, jostling for those last final spots. And then, of course, you have Greenwich, which seems to lose every close game that every team they play. Ridgefield, which is a very dangerous team, and Wilton, 1 game back. Going to go down to the wire for the FCAC postseason. 8 teams get into the playoffs, which starts next week. And now on to our Tri-State poll. One of my favorite things to do each week with the Tri-State poll, I go into the control room and I give the guys a poll, and usually Russ, Brian, or Bob, one of them says, "Is this right? Is this right in this poll?" There's so much movement in this Tri-State baseball poll every single week that it looks like it's wrong, but no, trust me, it's right. And we're going to dive right into the poll right now. Our top 20 poll, and we're going to start at the bottom. A team entering the poll this week is Staples, knocking on the door really for the last 2 weeks. Got a marquee win on Monday, beating West Hill. They've won 10 games in a row in Connecticut, sitting atop the FCAC standings at 16-3 overall, 15-2 in the league. Number 19, Ward Melville. They were cruising along. They dropped 12 spots when they lost 1-0 to Hills West in the Suffolk Class AA semis this week. They're kind of hanging in there, hoping to win a Suffolk County championship. Number 18, now this is where a team really plummeted. 15 spots, St. Peter's Prep. They lost to number 9, Marist, 3-2 on Saturday in the Hudson County Tournament Final, despite a 5-hitter from Antonio Velarde, who struck out 5 along the way. Our number 17 team is Long Island, that being division, the Class A favorites in a Nassau County Championship, and James Valera, game-winning single in a win this week for division. And number 16 team is Sachem North, 18-3 overall. Michael Donald swinging the bat really well, so is Stephen Foster. They knocked off Smithtown West 5-3. They're kind of clinging to a county championship. Now we move on to the next teams in the poll. Number 15, Marist, coming off a county championship in the Hudson County Final. The Bayonne Bunch, pitching rich. Matt Luttrell, Josh Witherspoon combined 12-2 on the year. The team is 21-6 overall. Number 14, a team whose season is, at least a state championship berth is over, that being Hunterdon Central, dropping 4 spots, 21-4. Greg Lerner says they still are really one of the top teams in New Jersey, if not the Tri-State, as we see them. Number 14 team, but their quest for a state championship is over as they lost as a number 1 seed to number 16 in the opening round. A number 13 team, Hills West from Long Island, 19-3. Dramatics, they're getting pitching, great pitching from Aaron Glickstein right now. Struck out 12 in the win over Ward Melville in the Suffolk AA semifinals. Hills West could be a dark horse. Not really a dark horse, but I guess would be a little bit surprised they won a Suffolk County championship. Number 12 team in the poll from New Jersey is Westfield, not ranked last week, 16-3 overall. And they are cruising along right now behind Anthony Perconte, the senior outfielder. And our number 11 team is a team that also drops out of the top 5, that being Ketchum of Section 1. They go from 4 to 11. They lost to Beacon on Saturday night. Still the number 1 team in the Section 1 Class AA playoffs, which get underway fully on Thursday. Now we go to the top 10. And in our top 10 right now is Don Bosco, riding the wave of finally beating Bergen Catholic. 2 close games in the regular season, both losses. They beat them in the Bergen County quarterfinals on Saturday. They're 13-6 overall, move up 2 spots. Number 9, also in New Jersey, that's Indian Hills, 19-2-1 on the season. AJ LaPresti, Brett Wilkes, Serafino Brito. The pitching has been so good all season long. Those guys are 16-1 combined for the 19-2-1 Indian Hills squad. Number 8 team is Fairfield Prep, the top team in Connecticut right now. Really getting things geared up for a Class AA state title run with ace Kevin Stone, who's been lights out all season long. Number 7, a Class A team in Section 1, that is Beacon. You beat number 4 team Ketchum, you're going to move up in the poll. They move up 4 spots. They can start their quest for a Class A championship in Section 1 this week. Number 6 is Roxbury, one of the hottest teams in New Jersey. Lost 2 games this week, 2 kind of in between post-county tournament, really regular state tournament tune-ups. No shame there, 20-7 overall. Timmy Polron continues to be awesome on the mound for Roxbury. Now our top 5 teams. Poly Prep, they're number 5 team. They are 1 win away from a independent state championship. Got to beat Rye Country Day on Wednesday at Manhattanville College to do that. Our number 4 team is Chaminade from Long Island, and they move on to the Catholic Championship in Long Island over the weekend. They are the number 4 team. Number 3 is Bergen Catholic. Even with that loss, we're not going to drop them out of the poll. They're dropping only 1 spot. They still are one of the top 3 teams. They are number 3 in the Tri-State poll right now, 19-4. Number 2, St. Joseph Regional, going to move up 3 spots. With the way they played of late, 7-0 win over Marist on Monday. And then you have our number 1 team. They've been there from the beginning, that being Seton Hall Prep, 25-2, the number 1 seed. Although Greg Lerner hinted Cedar Grove could give Seton Hall Prep something to think about as we get going in the New Jersey State Tournament. So state tournament's getting started in New Jersey. We have county championships going to wrap up there as well. We're going to crown Long Island champions next week. We're going to hand out Section 1, Section 9 titles, FCX champions, and I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll hope to see you next week on Around the Diamond. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to our guys in the control room, Eddie, our producer, for everything they do, and we'll see you next week on Around the Diamond.